Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I think we got it now. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear me? Anybody not hearing me? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. You guys can hear me? Okay. All right, we're ready to start. You might have to turn up the speakers on your system here. I can hear it coming through YouTube now. Hang on one sec. Can you guys hear? Okay, let's get started here. Welcome to our pop-up version of Zoom training here. One of the things that Reza and I were talking about when we looked at Zoom, we wanted to be able to integrate it very quickly and very rapidly into Blackboard. So here's the agenda items for today. What I'd like to do is show you very quickly a down and dirty way to get Zoom, make Zoom available for yourselves in your Blackboard courses, and then come up with a couple of strategies as to how you could use that positioning of Zoom in your Blackboard class as a regular sort of place where your students can meet you, and by leveraging announcements. So I'm going to show you just a couple little simple techniques in Blackboard. I plan on, maybe spending the first few minutes doing this. And then what I'd like to do is, we're in a webinar setting right now with Zoom. I'm actually pushing this out to YouTube. This is where you guys are getting this right now. And so what I want to do is, at the end of this, after I finish this, I want to disconnect from YouTube. But before I disconnect, I'll post a URL. That URL will be a URL that you can click, and then you can join me in a webinar using Zoom, so that we can have a hands-on version of this, and colleagues can join us over there. Colleagues who know much more about Zoom than I do can join us, and we can get a firsthand view of Zoom. My suggestion is, if you want, you can keep your YouTube up in the background if you wanted to post messages. I see a lot of people are posting right now, but when we go over to Zoom later at the end, I'm going to make a note of this. I'll be very sort of, I'll let you know specifically that you should shut down the sound on your browser from YouTube. And then otherwise you're going to have issues when you go over to Zoom. You're going to have two things going on at once. So you'll want to shut one down to go over to the other. Other than that, I think hopefully by the end of this we'll be all get into Zoom. So without further ado, let's get started here. So here's a standard Blackboard course that all of us are familiar with over at Dominguez. It's a very simple sort of procedure. So what you want to do is, you want to come up to the menu items up here. It's a plus sign. You want to work your way down here. Let me get a highlighter here so we can see this a little bit better. Okay, so make your way up over to the menu section, the left-hand section of the course. Press the plus sign, hit Tool Link. And in Tool Link, what you want to do is name this. Basically you can name it Zoom or whatever you'd like. Pull down the Tool Link type and make your way down all the way almost to the very bottom. And the second one from the bottom is the Zoom meeting link. Click that. Make this available to all users, right? And why is it that? Okay. Tool Link, hang on one sec here. I may have to go into another course shell. For some reason, my course shell is not allowing me to submit this. Okay, hang on one sec. Let me go to another course shell here where I can do this. Somehow or another, I think that one got locked up. Let's go over to one of my test courses. Okay, So especially if you have a I'm going to do this actually in the organizations. We did this successfully in the organizations earlier. Okay, so this would be similar to what you would do in your course. I'm just going to do this in an organization. You'll come in here, you'll type Zoom into the area, into your tool link, right? You'll go and find your Zoom meeting link. You'll make it available to users and you'll submit. I'll do this a couple of times. The positioning of this can be moved. You can move this up. You can see I made one earlier today. Let me take this one down. We'll hide that link. Okay. Or actually we can get rid of that link. But now you have a link. So let me do this all over again from square one so we can see this. Let me get rid of both of these. It's a very simple procedure. So again, come into your Blackboard course, the course where you want to do your Zoom meeting. Click the plus button and select Tool Link. As you select Tool Link, then you'll type Zoom. Okay. And then you'll select Zoom Meeting as the tool. You'll make it available to your students and then you'll submit. The button or the link will appear down here at the bottom. Now, my suggestion is to drag it up to the top, right? You'll drag it here up to the top and then you'll make this prominent so your students will see this. And the reason is, this is the second thing that I want to do, and that is to show you how you can use sort of the positioning, this upper positioning of the Zoom, to basically create a message for yourself where you can let your students know that you're having a meeting. So as many of you know, when you create a message, or I'm sorry, create an announcement in Blackboard, the announcement essentially creates a mailing list. It'll send out a message to all of your students. So you could say, for example, let's say your course normally meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:30. And right now it's like 2 o'clock. You could say, we're meeting in Zoom at 2:30, right? And when these messages go out, they're identified by the course ID, and so the students should have a pretty good idea where the source of this is from. So you can say, this is a reminder that we will be meeting in about 30 minutes, right? And so for everybody who's in the course now, when you submit this, they'll get this message. And if they're paying attention, they'll see it in their email. So you could, if you wanted to, you could do repeated messaging. If you were, let's say, superly fastidious about this, you wanted to do this the day before, you wanted to remind them, especially when you get started, you may want to, hit them with a couple of reminders. You can just sort of stack up your reminders. And then later on, you can get rid of these as you're going along. So this is basically the two-step process that I'm recommending, and that Reza and I went through. This is really the simplest way to do this. There are more intense methods of doing Zoom in terms of scheduling, but if your students are aware of your face-to-face times, that becomes kind of the natural times in which you would meet. You can also use Zoom for your office hours and for impromptu meetings if you need to meet with students or groups of students or whatever. So it's very flexible, and it's based on that link that you create right down here that we just created over here on the left-hand side. So I don't really have that much more to go on in terms of what I want to present to you on that front. If there are any questions, please post them. Now what I want to show you, however, I want to give you a look at what you will see when you go into Zoom. Okay, so if you have any questions on posting this, by the way, a good resource is this organization resource over here. I'm going to get rid of this Zoom link just so it doesn't cause any trouble for later, but I'll delete this menu link. But otherwise, this resource over here in organizations, you'll see it under Hang on here. COVID-19 remote learning resources. It's only one resource in there right now. We're planning on putting others, but here's the Zoom resources, the page I was just in. So if you go over there and you click that and you want to see the step-by-step on how to add the Zoom link, go ahead and click that and you'll get all of our screenshots of this, right? You want to make sure your edit mode is on, right? This goes through, there it is, plus sign, etc. There's the web tool, all the details that you have to add. Once it's published, it's placed, right? The movement of the link up to near the top. I wouldn't replace announcements. I'd leave announcements at the top, put Zoom underneath it, right? This is sort of the reordering way, and then you're done. And that again is over here in the organizations tab underneath the COVID-19 remote learning resources. Okay. Okay, the question is why we are not recommending Collaborate Ultra. We're not, it's not that we're not recommending Collaborate Ultra. You can use Collaborate Ultra. It's just in this one, we're not doing it, but we'll have another one for Collaborate Ultra. It's a good question because a lot of people, in case you don't know, we have two technologies that do conferencing, and that one of them is Zoom and one of them is Collaborate. And honestly, I don't know the details enough to give you that answer on what are the biggest differences. Somebody else, when we come on later, when we do our actual Zoom meeting, when we go to our webinar in Zoom, we have other people in here who can comment more precisely on those differences. And there are a few, but basically one of the things is they're basically delivering the same type of experience. They're allowing you to share desktop, and we'll get into all of that. So right now I'm going to take a minute and start up the the Zoom meeting for let's see where we got here. This would be our meeting so that you can see it from the administrator side or from the host side. That's how it's referred to in Zoom Talk. You are a host, and essentially you're the administrator of the meeting. Okay, I've got to go get the different, hang on here. I got to get my different URL. 1 second. Okay. All right, I'm going to fire up this Zoom meeting now. This Zoom meeting that I'm doing here is from my private account, and it's done for a technical reason because I only have one account from the university. I have my own private account so I could demonstrate this. It's not exactly, it's about 98% of the DNA of the Zoom that we have. So there's a couple of little subtle nuanced differences in what you're about to see. I just wanted to give you a quick look at what you're gonna see when you go in. But like I said, this is a private Zoom account, and that brings up a point. If you have a private Zoom account, unless you have one that you're paying for, I would not recommend using your private Zoom account with your students. I would recommend using the Dominguez account because you're likely to have far more privileges in the Dominguez account than you will in your private account. There's all kinds of limitations on the private account, not the least of which they'll cut your meeting off in the middle of it if you don't hand it off to somebody who has more privileges. So let me see if I can get into the meeting here. Hang on. One sec here as I load this in here. This is not something you guys will have to do. Hang on. Okay, one sec here. Give me a sec while I load this. And as I said, if there's any questions, ask them over there. Sorry, I'm loading in the wrong ID. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to open this and we should shortly see the meeting. Okay. So this is the basic screen that you will see as well. Actually, your students would see this as well. But as you come in, you'll notice that there are a set of controls down here. The controls here by default are set up to disappear, to give you the most screen that is possible. You see it just disappeared. If you want to bring it back, you can move your mouse down to the area and it'll pop back up. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm not going to unmute the mic, and nor am I going to start the video. But those are two things definitely that you would want to do. And here's another thing. You can check even in real time your microphone. So I have a few options here that I could fiddle around with even in real time. Probably a good idea to check that a little bit beforehand, but there are ways that even in real time you can make fixes. It's the same thing with video over here. Okay. Here are a few of the important, well, these are all important. So let me just go over these. Here is the invitation button. So I just went through an invitation process in Blackboard. And in Blackboard, you can leverage, as I said, the announcement section to make your invitation. But if you wanted to, you could go into Zoom and grab a URL of the meeting. So when I pop this up, it pops open this window. I can go copy this URL. And if I get a notepad and I print this out, or yeah, if I paste this out, then you can see here's my URL, right? In this case, you'll see it's got US web. It's going to say CSUDH right there instead of that US web. This is because this is my private Zoom account. But now this URL, you can send this around in an email, and you could tell people in an email, hey, meet us at 4 o'clock at this URL. And if they have Zoom set up, it'll set up for them. Okay. I'm going to bring Ruben in. Ruben, the only trouble is there's no sound. I can't make the sound work on this, so I'm going to have to do all the sound. So if you want to make a point, you're going to have to type it in the chat room. So anyway, that's what you want to do. You want to be able to, each Zoom session has a URL. Actually, when you go in, there's a way that you can go in and manage your Zoom. We won't go into it today, but there's a way you can go in and manage Zoom so that you can have a permanent URL that is like your name. If you wanted to, you can make that your name. All right, here's the participant list. As you can see, when I click it, it toggles on and off. So everybody who's in this particular Zoom meeting with me who got the invitation, they show up over here. So I'm the host. You can see my colleague Ruben. He's over. He's showing up right now. Bernie, all these others are showing up here. These are the students. These would be, as if these were your students here. Here I am at the top. I'm the host, and there's a few things that you should notice here. If, for example, there was a cacophony of sound and you wanted silence, you can come down here to this area down here at the bottom, and it'll say mute all. I can see that the Zoom logo is kind of blocking this out. But you can mute all your participants, and then you can one by one go in and you can see, I can unmute, I can mute, and then I can unmute people. You can see it, right? I can mute Ruben because he's not muted, and then I can unmute Reza, et cetera, et cetera. I can unmute, mute all. There's also other things up here. Let me make make Ruben a host. I'm going to bring him in. Boom. So right on the fly, I can share my hosting duties. And now Ruben is the host of this meeting. And Ruben, I just want you to know there's no sound. Okay. So now there's some other things that are up here that you should know. If individual wants to get your attention, there's a way I can raise my hand. If you look up here, I just raised my hand. The hands will show up. So you could ask your students. So with a show of hands, how many of you think that, you know, so-and-so is going to win the election? All right. And then everybody would raise their hand. And then if at the end of that, you would lower everybody's hand. So you can use raising of hands as a way to, you know, get cues off of your students, whether they're paying attention to something or doing something on that order. Let's see here. You've also got, this is the chat section. So I come over here to chat, and now I'm going to go send, what I can do is I can send out chat to everyone up in the group right at this point, right? I can open up and everyone in the chat will receive this. So I say, hello world. And that goes out to everyone. Or I can target somebody. So I can go over to Kira and say, hi, Kira. Did you get the reading? Right? I might know that she needs something specifically. So I can just go over to her and you can see this was done privately, right? So you have private chat capabilities as well as public chat capabilities. Also, if I need to, I can send a file. So I can upload, I can go over to Dropbox, Drive, Google Drive, or my local computer. So I can upload a document if I need to. This is also a great place to post websites, right? So let's just do an example. What happens is they'll go hot right away. So if you wanted to share a website, now if I click that, it'll pop up, right? And there's a few other things. You can save the chat. So later on, if you wanted to get all the chats, gather them up, see who participated, use that as a reviewing device for depth of participation, et cetera, et cetera. There's a way to save that. Okay. So even, let's see if I can do this. We can do, the question is about PowerPoint. Okay, Richard, what I want to do is I want to do that specifically when we go over, when I invite you over to the Zoom session, right? I would prefer that when we do it, we'll share it right in Zoom itself, okay? But it's essentially this. It's about screen sharing. So when I come in, I'm asking my computer to bring up information. So if I have up in my computer, for example, I'm over here in my OneDrive. I want to share with you this. Right? You can share documents like this. Let's see if Ruben, can you share something? Ruben's going to share something with us right now. Let me see. Yeah, okay. So Ruben's bringing up a screen share right now. Right. And this was the agenda. We've kind of violated a few of the agenda items already, but this is the agenda for today. And you can see he's bringing this up, and I think this is in Word. And so we can take a look at this. We actually have done it. What we do quite frequently is we edit using Zoom, and then we, somebody does the typing, and then we all chime in on the editing and stuff. So it's a good way to do sort of group projects, but it's also, there are others. Ruben, can you show as well some other, I know we can't do sound, but just show some other types of media. Right, he's showing how you can do he's also showing how you can do real-time editing tech of this. So, okay, he's going to go grab another document. We apologize for the sound. It's too technically difficult at this point for me to figure out. This is my bad. I couldn't get the sound to work on this. This is not something you guys will confront. This is because I'm doing this on 2 computers. Zoom has actually won awards for its sound quality and its sound capabilities. So this is just because of I'm demonstrating this. Later on today, you'll see, as long as the sound is working on your computer, it'll be fine. So yeah, Ruben's showing us a set of websites, right? This is great for what, actually this is a video. This is a video that he's showing. So, you know, anything that you can imagine that you would show in your classroom, you can use Zoom to show, right? I mean, you know, there's the limitations of screen size and that sort of thing, but you can do markup and you can do all sorts of other things on this. There's a couple of other things that you should be aware of. You can record your sessions down here, and I don't want to go into the depth of this, but it's essentially you press the button. I don't, Ruben, if you could give me back host and I can show them this. Ruben will send me back host capabilities. And now when I go to record, wait, it's not up yet. Okay. If you notice up here in the upper right-hand corner, it'll say that I've been given my host rights back. It's coming up just in a sec. There it is, up there at the top, right? And so down here at the bottom here was one more, is a couple more here, is recording. So now as soon as I click that, this meeting is now in recording session. So it'll record this. Now for most people here at Dominguez who use the recording option, what happens is at the end of the meeting, you'll be given a window will pop up and it'll ask you where you want to save the download file. So you'll save that to your desktop. And then if you wanted to put it back up in Blackboard, let's say it was something extraordinary that you wanted students to see again, you could upload it and send it back up to Blackboard that way. Honestly, I don't know reactions. I'm thinking, oh, okay, yeah, this is just different emoticons for reactions. So you can do thumbs up, clapping, that sort of thing on a certain point. Reza, do you think we need to cover more points here, or can we do the breakout session and go over to the webinar? My plan was to shut down, well, actually post the link to the webinar and then meet everybody over there. And then I would be making more people co-host, that sort of thing. Does that sound okay? Post that over on the chat room and YouTube. Okay, I'm not hearing from him. So yeah, it does look so. Okay, good point. No, this is all going to look small. This is only a facsimile of what you're going to see in Zoom. The quality in Zoom is going to be much better than what you're seeing right now. Okay. The sound will be much more in sync. We're doing this through two systems. I'm doing it through Zoom and then I'm doing it through YouTube. So it's adding latency to the whole process. So by the time it gets out to you, there's been like almost a 15-second delay from when I'm talking. So this is not something we would not want to use YouTube as a real-time tool, but Zoom does a much better job, as you'll see later on when we go over there. So let me go through some of these questions and see if we can cover them. I'll cover them the best I can here. Okay. Can you use Zoom to teach piano? Yes, no, as long as you can get your camera set up to look at what you're doing, you can get Zoom to do anything. You can use those special sort of magnifying cameras. You can, anything that you can photograph or that you can videotape with a digital camera can come through Zoom. So yeah, you can do piano if you wanted. You'd have to work at it, right? I mean, one way you could do that, I suppose, is have the camera on you or have the camera on keyboards. Yeah, that's, somebody was asking about private Zoom. You don't want to use that. You want to avoid that. Log out of your private Zoom and then log back into CSUDH account. You can do pre-recorded lectures. You could have a, excuse me, you could have a bunch of pre-recorded lectures ready to go and show them little short clips if you want, and just show them in the background and then comment on them afterwards. Let's see. It's hard to see how they raise their hand. Yeah, I mean, it's small, but again, you guys are probably looking at this on the smaller screen in YouTube. So everything is very small. When you get over to your full screen, a 13-inch, somebody's mentioned a 13-inch iMac Pro, right? That should be fine. I know lots of people who do everything on this. By the way, this will also work on a phone. A lot of the Zoom sessions can be set up on phones as well. If students are getting your classes through the phone, they can link to your sessions on their own phones, and they can see it on phone. So it just depends on what you're comfortable with. Yes, you can launch Zoom from Blackboard. Let's see, share screen. Yeah, you want to be careful on what you're sharing. You can share screens inadvertently. You don't want to share everything to the world. And the raise hand, 13-inch MacBooks. We are recording this, yes. And by the way, it's all everything that you need in terms of how to put the links, just as a reminder, is over in organizations under the COVID-19 folder. You'll be able to see how I did that Zoom link. Okay. You don't need a Zoom account. All you need is CSUDH account. As long as you're a CSUDH faculty member, as long as you use the same username and password that you use for everything else, you're in. That's the way it works. Okay, Larry is asking, last question was screwed up. I am comparing this to Google Hangouts on air. Can a student speak and take the floor? Yes. Automatically, I'm not sure. I think they come in muted, and then you make them available. Okay. Is it necessary to download Zoom onto one's computer in order to set up a meeting on your own computer? Yes, you would need that. Although I got to say, there is a web variety of Zoom. Okay. Are there any other questions? I'm about ready to, when I click, it goes to Cengage sign in. What goes to Cengage sign in? Okay, I'm going to leave that Cengage sign in question to somebody else afterwards. It'll just be, it's kind of, I mean, it's an important question. You guys are stuck, of course, but I want to move on to this. Is everybody ready to move on? Because if you are, I'm going to post. What I want to do is I want to post the URL, and then I want you to copy the URL over to something like a notepad or something like that. I want you to turn off your YouTube, because you're going to get double sound, and you don't want that. That's going to be a really bad sound situation for you. So let's see. Rick wants to know, no, I'm in the music department. Can multiple students play music together at the same time? I don't know. You mean like from different Zoom sessions, can they play at the same time? Like, can a student in their house over here play? That would be interesting. I don't know how tight the Zoom, I would think there would be some latency. Can you create yes, you can create a transcript. Thank you, Ruben. Ruben, is the question about transcripts. A transcript can be created. Yes, students will have to download Zoom and install it on their computer as well. It's a small plugin. It takes about 2 minutes. Okay, if everybody's ready for the URL, I'm going to put it up there, but I'm going to do another warning. If you leave the YouTube up there and then you go over to the Zoom session, you're going to regret it. Okay, what you want to do is make sure you turn off the sound any way you can, either by turning off or just completely killing the YouTube session, or turning off the volume on that web page. Yeah, you know, the music people, reach out to help desk. I'm sure they have a solution for this. I think we can work around this, but I'm curious myself. I have no clue about whether students and their professors could play music all at the same time. That would be very interesting. I don't know. I think the timing on that might be a little bit rough. But if everybody's ready, any more questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. If there are no more questions, then I am going to post right here. I'm going to post the URL to this webinar, right? And then you guys will click that. And then, like I said, very quickly, ditch the YouTube because you're going to get double sound. If you don't, you're going to, like I said, you'll regret it. Here we go. This is the URL for the Zoom webinar that I'm in right now. Reza.
Turn off your audio.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? If you can hear me. Yeah, if you can hear me, yeah, you can hear me. Post a yes in there. Okay, great. Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, so now we're in the meeting area here and everybody's getting a view of what it looks like from their vantage point. Now, just a couple of caveats. This is a webinar. This is a webinar function of Zoom. Webinar function of Zoom is very